guys ready to fight some yokai?
Let's have a little fun.
Neo Edo will be mine.
I will become a samurai like Miyamoto Usagi.
Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo series consists of some of the greatest indie comics ever written. The story of Miyamoto Usagi, a samurai rabbit who travels Japan during the Edo period. The series takes great inspiration from early Japanese samurai films, but is also an extremely respectful portrayal of the life of a samurai that aims to be as accurate to their beliefs and lifestyle as possible. What may appear as a cartoony kids book on the surface is actually a comic series that makes history fun. It's definitely worth checking out if you've never read them, and it will likely appeal to both kids and adults. Usagi Yojimbo has also had an extremely bizarre yet fascinating presence on TV. His first TV debut was actually via an episode of the 1987 Ninja Turtle show, and from then on, anytime he appeared in any sort of media, it was a crossover with the Turtles. There was also a failed Space Usagi pilot from the 90s, which never got off the ground being a pilot, but goes to show the desire to give Miyamoto Usagi his own animated adaptation had always been there.
I accept, and will not fail you, Tono. Banzai!
Well, here we are more than 3 decades later, and through the power of streaming, Miyamoto Usagi has finally received his show. Well, kind of. But before I get to the show itself, yes, I am aware Netflix is in a dumpster fire state right now, especially when it comes to its future plans for animation, but I am here just to talk about the show itself, not the company that helped produce it. Samurai Rabbit, the Usagi Chronicles, is less of a straight-up adaptation of the source material and more of a spiritual successor to the story that takes a lot of creative liberties with the property. It's a show that, at the end of the day, is geared towards a much younger audience. This show takes place in the distant future and follows another rabbit named Yuchi Usagi, who aims to be a samurai like his great ancestor, Miyamoto Usagi. Now, as to how far in the future this is, I don't really know. To my understanding, the main character is supposed to be Usagi's great-grandson, but this definitely isn't accurate to the state of Japan during that time period. What this series does is it creates a world of its own, one that's a mix of traditional Japanese architecture and futuristic technology. It's not really concerned with teaching kids about the history of Japan, which is a real shame, as I think that would have made the show a lot more interesting. The plot of the show revolves around Usagi heading to the city of Neo Edo, where he meets a new group of friends, all descendants of recurring characters from the original comics. Coincidence or destiny? You decide. At the end of the first episode, Usagi touches the Master Emerald, unleashing yokai spirits who cause havoc upon the city.
It's not shutting down. It's not.
The yokai element of this show is bizarre, as while the comics did occasionally feature yokai, fighting yokai was not what Usagi was really known for, something that this show convinces itself was the case.
And that noble samurai, that yokai killing warrior, was my ancestor, Miyamoto Usagi.
I understand the yokai aspect being added in as a fun Monster of the Week sort of deal for kids, but the show doesn't really follow a Monster of the Week format. Instead, the show is pretty chaotic in its execution. A lot of the B-plots and C-plots of each episode feels completely disconnected from the A-plot. It always feels like I'm watching 3 separate episodes at once rather than one solid narrative. It honestly made my head spin from time to time.
Wait, who's this? What is going on?
If they wanted to keep it simple, they should have just taken notes from anime like Yokai Watch or Digimon Ghost Game, and had each episode revolve around a unique spirit causing mischief that they end up having to help out by the end of it. It's no secret that one of the most disappointing aspects of the show is the animation itself. It's probably been the only thing on your mind while watching these clips. The show was animated by Gaumont, a French animation studio. I honestly hate critiquing any sort of animation because I don't doubt that some animators put their all into this production. but the animation itself feels incredibly out of date, like something that would have aired on TV about 10 years ago, maybe even a few years earlier, as the 2012 Ninja Turtles came out 10 years ago, and that show looks infinitely better. This honestly looks like something that should have the CW4Kids logo in the corner. This also means the action itself is rather lackluster, something you don't want out of your action-adventure cartoon. I don't really know if it was issues related to time or budget, but it's just a real shame that such a gorgeous looking comic series has been reduced to this. Not that the art style of the show is bad. I actually quite like a lot of the designs. The one exception being Kitsune, whose eyes always look just a little too far apart. Not sure what was going on there either. The background themselves look pretty alright, and there's actually some 2D moments in this show that actually do look beautiful. The 2D moments are all flashbacks of Miyamoto Usagi, but they're done in this graphic novel art style that looks amazing. It's not exactly full animation, it's more akin to a motion comic, but I honestly really enjoyed these segments. It was almost a bad idea putting them in just because it makes the rest of the show look so unremarkable in comparison. The voice acting here is very hit or miss. I liked Darren Barnett a lot as the title character, but some of the voice actors here just sound like they didn't really care enough to give it their all.
What do you mean you blew it?
Well, this is Hana.
Is that the Keystone?
There's never really a point where these characters feel like real friends either. It's really bizarre. The way that all of these side characters just give up on their private lives to give all their free time to this samurai rabbit they barely know. There's little to no motivation for any of their decisions. And I know I already talked a bit about the setting, but it's honestly one of the show's biggest missed opportunities. The idea of having a future based around traditional Japanese architecture is a neat one, but it all feels so underdeveloped. Like someone had a fraction of an idea, but then didn't have either the dedication or the resources to fully commit to it. I've seen shows in the past do similar concepts, a good example being the recent CGI He-Man show, which combines a more medieval fantasy setting with futuristic technology, and does it in a way that feels completely natural. You're not constantly thinking about it as you watch it. Samurai Rabbit, the Usagi Chronicles, is overall underwhelming. It took something great and gave us a show that delivers the bare minimum in just about every department. I think that kids below the age of 8 might enjoy this, especially because they won't be thinking so much about the animation or just how off everything feels. But it's definitely not worth the time of the older fans of the Usagi Yojimbo comics. I'm actually kind of glad that this show distances itself so much from the source material. It doesn't leave me feeling angered in any sense, it's more of a shrug and move on kind of adaptation. I've already forgotten it. So that does it for now. I expect to be back soon with some more cartoon reviews. Until next time, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.